So I'll actually
Nice.
get started by introducing myself. My name's Mike Weber. I'm the community and event manager at Pixelz. Uh, Prior to Pixelz, I was actually and still am a practicing e-commerce photographer. I've been a Pixelz customer for the last 6 years, and so it's a great place to be. I'm really excited to talk about editorials today. It's going to be a great thing that I can offer my clients in addition to our amazing e-com retouching platform. I think editorials is just going to be fantastic to roll into that offering. And yeah, based in LA. Jacob, can you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about Pixelz and why we're here today?
Sure. I'll keep it short, and the people that know me knows that that's difficult for me. But I'll try to do it short when it comes to Pixels. So yeah, my name is Jakob. I'm the COO at Pixels. I've been with the company for around 7 years now. Was brought on to actually run the global production. So I spent 3 years on the production side of things, and in the last few years I've been spending mostly on the customer and product side of things, and so really working with our clients and keeping a pulse on where the industry is going, and also why I'm here to shed a little light on what we're getting into with editorial retouching. And for the ones that don't know our Pixels already, we have been around for 10 years, and we are on a mission to empower studio professionals with reliable AI retouching. And we have applied a different approach to retouching by building a platform that kind of take the best of both worlds, from the automation side and the human specialist side, and that's something that is offering really fantastic consistent quality at scale, and that allows us to deliver images back to our clients with in a very fast pace, if we put it like that. So I think that's the short version, Mike.
Great. And after all that expertise, background in e-commerce, we're finally making the entrance into editorials. Can you talk about why we're making that change right now?
Yeah, and I actually think it's kind of interesting that we are making that change, because from the get-go, Pixels was brought on to solve the e-com needs of the world, and we actually deliberately decided not to go into more creative retouching, because that is a kind of a different species. So we've really been focused on high volume e-com photography and retouching, but kind of as the industry has evolved over the years, from when we started, it was like pretty basic products on white. Over the last 2-3 years, we're really seeing like kind of an escalation in the needs from our clients, where there's just a general move into more editorial style content, and with the clients that we've been servicing, focusing more on kind of PDP work, we're also seeing a bigger demand in having more creative freedom on the PDP, and we're definitely seeing like a shift away from the more standardized and static photography and retouching to allowing way more creativity in the production process. And with that, we've basically organically been moving into the more elevated editorial and much closer to, or more elevated PDP and much closer to what you would call editorial. And of course, we're talking about terms that are quite subjective, and something that is editorial to one brand could be different to another. And of course, there's not like a black and white way of talking about these concepts. But that's sort of the way that we've expanded into this area, and we've had a ton of conversations with our existing customer base and also other brands out there that we're not currently working with, and we're definitely seeing a strong need of going deeper into this field and supporting our clients where they are in the direction that they're taking.
Yeah, this is something we talk a lot about at Pixelz. So I actually have a really great visual that I want to share here. do a quick screen share. And you talk about that overlap, and that's what this image describes for us here. So this is a great little Venn diagram showing that transition from e-commerce to editorial. And like you said, the elevated component has kind of been where our customers have pointed us in the right direction, and just it continues over into editorial. So we're here now with the full ecosystem of retouching.
Yeah, exactly. That's a good way of illustrating it.
Yeah, and actually also, while we're on this full screen view, in a recent meeting with my marketing team, we had a great discussion about Mango and their elevated PDP. So I'd like to share this as well. You can see, of course, typical e-commerce bags, e-commerce photos, very nice e-commerce photos, but also elements of editorial are present. And we're seeing this more and more. And you can call this elevated, you can call it editorial, but it's really just a blend, if you will.
Yeah, I think this is probably the best way of actually showing. I think this is a great example. And we also, of course, know that Mango are amongst the ones that are driving this this change or this development in the industry. And I think this is a perfect example where they're actually incorporating all these different types of images into a single PDP. So I think it's a great example, Mike.
Yeah, beautiful work for an $80 bag. This is just really high-end looking.
Yeah, if you didn't know any better, this could have been an $800 bag, right? It looks fantastic.
Agreed. Totally agree. So I'll stop sharing that. Get back to the presentation. Yeah, so that's a great real-life example there. Can we talk about kind of why, what customers of ours, maybe not what customers, but what we're doing and why we started this because of our customer base?
Yeah, I actually think that there's like two sides of it. There's one side that kind of happened under the radar. Like we haven't even, like, now we're trying to label these concepts and where does this type of images fit in, and we haven't even touched on other types of media, because that's another whole element, right? There's a lot of mixed media going on these days, and we definitely expect that to be even more. But we were actually seeing kind of an organic shift with a fairly big group of our customers that were basically just over time asking for more, or not necessarily asking for more, but bringing new types of images into the mix. And with that, they were asking for us, to handle that in post accordingly. And this is something that's been taking place, like I said, like over the last probably 2-3 years, and it's been escalating over the last year or so. And that's something that we didn't really, it's not like we sat down and say, okay, now our clients are moving into more elevated, but it just kind of happened organically. So I think that's one element. And then there's the other side of it where we've actually had a ton of conversations with the existing customers, talking specifically about Pixel's ability to also help them out on the more creative, more elevated content. Now that they felt like, we've sort of solved the e-com side of things. So we've had some ongoing dialogues, and I think for us, like, the breaking point was around a year ago or so, when we started having some very close dialogues with a big US-based brand, and that really saw us as a solution to their advertising work, something that we'd never really touched on, something that we never looked at before. And then we started diving into that, and then we realized there is really a difference to be made here, and we can really leverage a ton of the technologies, a lot of the processes that we already built for e-com, and then add a layer on top of that to accommodate the specificities of editorials, and obviously also on the workflow side of things. It's typically more complex. There's more stakeholders in there. There's a greater need for communication and so on. So that was for us. That was like that was when we decided to move into this and invest heavily in building the solution for our clients.
That's great. So it sounds like we've really made this hand in hand with our customers. with their input.
Yeah, I think that's very fair to say. I think everything that we've built for Editorial has been based on, numerous feedback loops and testing with our clients and getting, continuous feedback. And if you're in product development, that's really, that's the best case scenario you can have, instead of having to sit in a basement somewhere and trying to figure out what the world looks like in a year from now. Getting out there and talking to your clients and even clients that were not existing clients but had the same need, and just really try to look at this from different angles and figuring out what sticks and what doesn't, and then build out the solutions for them.
And so, because
in that sense, it's quite privileged, to be honest.
Yeah, and because editorials is so different than e-commerce retouching, the standardization that we've really come to perfect.
Right.
I think this is one of the really special things about editorials, is how we get in touch with our customers, how we onboard them. And actually, I want to talk a little bit about that, the process of how we customize the editorials process for the customers. Obviously, there's lots of different workflows out there. A customer might have communications in one system and markups in another. And then when the images go through another system to the retoucher. So how are we consolidating these workflows and getting this to work seamlessly for our customers? How if I was a customer, how would I communicate my requirements to Pixelz?
Right. I think before we get to the solution, I think you're touching on like before you come up with a solution, you kind of need to have a challenge or a pain, right? And I think what you're touching on there was this really a fragmented way of handling communication, handling just file handling, file triaging, all these different things that goes on. Even within a single studio, you could have 5 sources of communication or markups coming from anything from a preview markup to an iPhone drawing on a photo, and they could all happen within the same studio. And this was a really big cause for frustration, because how do you streamline something like that? And that's when we looked at each other and said, okay, we need to dig into this. We need to solve this. And so I think in terms of workflow wise, it's not, the approach that we're taking is not much different than how we do on e-com. It's all about sitting down with the customer and understanding what are the requirements, both on, style guide, brief level, what kind of retouching are they looking for. Typically, you would need to have different briefs, different setups for different brands, sub-brands, etc. And then you have the whole workflow side, which is oftentimes just as big as a pain. So it is looking down, analyzing the briefs, and then making sure that we find a way of communicating that into our system, that translates into our system. And then, of course, on the back end, a lot of things goes on, both systems-wise, but also, briefing the retouching team and making sure that everybody is really understanding the brand aesthetic of each individual brand.
Yeah, you're kind of making a point that was made at our Flow event earlier this month in Berlin. We were on a roundtable. I moderated a roundtable, and it was about speed to market, the importance of speed to market. And one of the main takeaways was just having a single source of truth, and that just cuts through all the clutter. And I think we've done that.
Yeah.
With editorials, gotten everyone out of PDFs, out of Dropbox, and into one single solution.
Yeah, I noticed those takeaways, because that was really confirming again what we've heard from a lot of other sources, that we the people that were in that room and on the panel were basically reinforcing what we've been hearing and seeing. So that was nice.
Yeah, it's always nice to get confirmation that we're making the things that people want to be using.
Oh yeah.
So we've got the process of getting our workflow onto the system, but on the back end, you started to touch on this. What does that start to look like? It's not just our SAW system. It's not just automation and workflow. We've got a team on the back end making sure that our customers are getting what they want. Can you explain a little bit about that?
Yeah, exactly. I think we also found out that we have an extremely strong team on anything workflow related, from third-party systems integrations to file handling, anything that happens from photography basically to final asset delivery and online, that whole process. We have a strong team that been seeing numerous types of setups, because pretty much any studio is working in a different way, right? So we've seen a ton of scenarios. So we're definitely leveraging a lot of the learnings that we've had over the last 10 years, and also a lot of the systems that we actually built to accommodate all kinds of different integrations and setups. So there's a ton of flexibility already built into the platform that we're leveraging. And then we have been building, some competencies as well within the team. We've been adding some different stakeholders within our team on the client management side. We have, customer success managers, close to the clients that come from photography, retouching background on the editorial side, that understand the language of the customer, that knows exactly what kind of pains they've been going through, because they've been there themselves. And then on the production side, we've actually added like another layer on top of what we had, and we've added a role that we call brand ambassador, that is basically on site with the production team, but that is in full sync with the brand and the local customer success managers as a group, and they're basically relaying any brand aesthetic that needs to be translated into the retouching, so that the retouching team is in full sync with each individual brand. So that's been like a core component of being able to accommodate the specificities and you could say the flexibility and the agility that we need to have in the production, because with e-com, it's not like you have a lot of changes on a campaign level or on an asset level, whereas it's a totally different dynamic when it comes to editorial, at least for some brands. Again, it differs, right?
Sure.
Some are more standardized, some are basically looking at each shoot as being unique, and that's something that we need to be able to accommodate on our side too.
I just find it really interesting that we've solved this and added to our automation workflow by creating a marriage with AI and human brand ambassadors, someone sitting on top of the whole machine, making sure that our customers are getting exactly what they want. I love it.
Yeah, and I think it's also, in all fairness, we're obviously not able to leverage the same level of automation and AI that we do on the e-com side, because it's just more standardized, and when you standardize, it's easier to automate. But it is definitely a huge benefit that we're able to leverage some of the technology, because it gives us a ton of flexibility in our production, and we're able to accommodate the ebbs and flows, and really free up the time for the retouches to focus on what's really special to each individual brand. So that is a huge benefit, and it's something that we're going to be investing even more in going forward, so that we can leverage that to an even higher degree than we do now.
So I do want to get to our live demo, but before we do that, I have one more question for you, and for the audience to understand a little bit about how the backend works too. There are so many stakeholders in editorial, as with others, but especially with editorial. Can you talk about how we're allowing different team members to access these images, markups, revision histories, etc.?
Yeah, and I think it's a good point. I think with, again, on the e-com side, we have clients that have 3 users, and then we have clients that have 15 users. If they're managing multi brands within the same brand, and some are owning some brands and some are owning others, they all live within the same platform, but then using different customized user permissions, you can basically make sure that the users or your team members only have access to what they need to have access to. So one, they have full accountability, but also so you don't mess with other people's work basically, and just keep it simple. So that's definitely a very important component. And one of the things we're looking at, in the future, we have a ton of things in the pipeline, is that we're going to be able to expand on that and actually create a lot of different reporting and production insights down to a user level. I can't give you a timeline on that right now, but that is something that we're going to be expanding on, because we know that that's important. A lot of that stuff is tracked in spreadsheets today, and we really work hard on minimizing the need for using spreadsheets. So that's also, I think, a very interesting component, and something that allows our clients to use that data to also continuously improve in their day-to-day, because that is also how we see it. Like, we want to be an enabler of optimizing the entire process, and not just focusing on the retouching side of it. So I think that's a very interesting aspect too.
Good. Well, you're already touching on features, so I think it might be a good time now to kind of do a sneak peek. Let's see what editorials can offer us. Can you pull up a screen share and show us the demo?
Yeah, let me give you a quick rundown. I'm also, I'm aware of the time here, but let me just show you a little bit here.
Especially, I'd like to make sure we touch on markup revision histories as we get.
Right. You're seeing my screen now, right?
Yes. There's the dashboard.
Good. Right. So if we just click through to specific image that we just processed here. So what we're looking at here is the final version of an image that we sent through the editorial workflow. And if we go to, in the top left corner here, you have your revision history. And if we start with the original, obviously a clear change. If we wanted to see like from the original to the final asset, we can do a side by side here, but we also know that oftentimes it may take a round or two or three to get there. So if we look at again the original, our clients have the opportunity to go in and make markups on the image in here, so you don't have to do that in a third-party system, but just do it where you live. And if we look at some of the pre-production comments that we have in here, I don't know if you can see it on the screen here, but basically we're asking to reduce the redness of skin as a general comment. We're asking to make the top garments stand out a little bit more, and then we want to remove some distracting elements here in the foreground, and then we can switch to the edit that was made on this one. So we can see we did just that. We did make it pop. We can also go back and look at what we marked up before, so you can see your very clearly what has been done in the process, and then we also have there were a few more things that we wanted to do with this one, as you can see down here. I'm just going to scroll a bit here, but there's some dirt on the stairs here. We want to remove some grass. You can see up here as well, there's a light pole that we want to take away, and again clean up the stairs a bit more.
So would this be a second revision that we're looking at?
This would be the second. Yeah, this would be the second revision. That's right. And that would take us in this case all the way to final. But of course, there is an opportunity. If you have something else that you wanted to, let's say that we wanted to add another change request. Maybe we wanted the stairs to be even more cleaned up. We just say like clean up stairs. See if I can spell right here. Just save it, and then you can see this image has been rejected for reprocessing. So now this actually just goes straight back to the retoucher who did the job, and this will be returned to me within a few hours. So that's kind of that closed loop that we try to get in here, so you don't have to move out of your zone. It's like really a core concept to keep the users in the interface that they use. Because we know that once you start, switching between interfaces on, you lose a ton of valuable time. So that's one of the core concepts that we build into it.
Yeah, keeping that single source of truth. Well, Jakob,
Exactly.
I have a couple questions, but I know, and I'm hoping that the audience will also add some to the chat here. You mentioned having the revisions back quickly. What can we expect as far as turnaround? Can you speak to that at all?
Yeah, I think we deliberately not put anything on like the site as it is right now, because I think we're very well aware that I'll stop sharing here, Mike. Then I can also see your face again.
Yeah.
But I think it really comes down to the needs of the customer. The way that we look at this, we're going to sit down with the client and basically look at their needs from a workflow perspective, from a retouching perspective, from an SLA perspective, and then we're going to accommodate those needs. So it could be anywhere from just a few hours turnaround to a couple of days, based on how fast do they need it back, what kind of timelines are they working with, do they have a week to finish the campaign, is there rush jobs, and so again, I think that it doesn't even have to be like a standard turn for one client. It could be on a campaign level, it could be on almost on a day level. Maybe some want to use us in the beginning, at least just for overflow, and then that may be a need that they have on that specific day, and maybe that changes over time too, where they want to use us as a more recurring partner. So it's really something that we sit down and look at what are the needs, and then we customize it towards that.
Okay. So yeah, I guess there is a lot of customized requests that will come through, but I was looking and see that we're still positioned on top of the SAW workflow. So I think it's going to be working its way through our system very quickly.
Yeah, definitely. That's for us. That is really that's how our whole backbone. That's how we're able to leverage both the best of the automation, but also really enabling and empowering our retouchers to do a fantastic job. So that is the backbone, and we're always going to build whatever functionality we have based on that. And the front end, the customer interface that we just looked at now is completely integrated with everything that goes on the back end, where our retouchers work in Photoshop. They don't shift their interfaces either. We have a Photoshop integration, so they're basically in the panel in Photoshop. They would receive this image back, and the markups and the comments would display in Photoshop. So they also don't switch between different systems. So again, single source of truth. In this case, it's the same truth, right? So I think that's a super important thing. And I think it's also important to say that when I mention customize, it doesn't mean that we have to build everything from scratch, right? We have a ton of functionality, we have a ton of workflows that we can tap into, but it's more about picking the elements that we have that fits with the specific workflow of each individual brand, right?
Yeah. So that was actually my first question for you. Luckily, that intersected with Kate's question. She has another one for us. Brian, I'm going to get back to yours one moment. Kate's second question is, you mentioned the same retoucher will work on the images after iterations. So will that same retoucher continue on that same image until the job's complete throughout the revision?
Yeah, as a rule of thumb, yes. Obviously, if somebody finishes an image and returns it and then leave and take off on a holiday for a week, we're not going to wait a week to reprocess that. Then somebody else in the team is going to step in, and there's going to be a group of people that understand the brand aesthetics of each individual brand. So they're going to be able to step in and work in a team. And again, if there's any confusion, then we have the brand ambassador that is completely on top of this and can coach the retoucher to make sure that we take the right approach to each individual image.
Okay. Yeah. Perfect. So we were getting close to the end of the webinar here, but there are a couple more questions from Brian that I want to go over.
All right.
Will color matching tools be available?
Yeah, definitely. Color matching, color changing. A lot of the functionality we have in there. We actually have a really interesting use case from a big name brand. I think most people would know them if I brought them up here, that have color libraries that they want to utilize. So basically they can build a color library in the platform, and they can trigger that for different campaigns. In the same way, you can also build a model library so that we always are able to trigger the right model reference based on some different naming conventions or metadata whatever again fits with the specific workflow of the client.
Okay. And Brian's second question was about level of control, which it sounds like we're controlling a lot. In addition to the automated components, we've got a lot of customized control with the markups, with our color matching. Glenn,
yeah, definitely.
Glenn asks, how does fashion storytelling fit with editorial lifestyle fashion photo retouching? So I guess he's wanting to know how this is going to be used, I guess, outside of e-commerce. Is that correct, Glenn? Let's move to another question. How about bulk retouching? This is actually an interesting thing that we talk a lot about, bulk versus flow. And we are nearing the end of our time here. Let's make this our last question.
Okay. Yeah, if we look at bulk or batching as the opposite to flow, we understand that the vast majority of studios today work in batching because they don't have the tools to enable flow. So of course that's something that we accommodate. It's the most often use case that we see, but it is something that that's part of the conversation that we would like to have with the clients to see how can we potentially start receiving images as productions are finished, as you're finishing a shoot. How can we maybe see that instead of batching multiple shoots over a day or 2 or 3 and then receiving that by the end of the week, because that just gives like an ongoing both upload and delivery. Mm-hmm. And especially when you have multiple stakeholders that are probably involved in the production, that gives our clients maybe another day or 2 to actually involve the right people at the right time. So I think that uploading in flow has a lot of there's a lot of possibilities with that and a lot of upsides. And I think especially when it comes to editorial, because of the added complexity, at least that some brands have, I think being able to give them another day or 2 for the internal feedbacks or revisions, I think it is extremely powerful.
So I suppose flow is maybe more better suited for a studio environment, high volume e-com when images are just being churned out of the camera, as opposed to editorial, which might be being captured on location or in the field somewhere.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's typically a very different workflow, but I still think there are some elements where there's some overlap and some benefits. Again, if you're shooting a campaign where maybe you shoot that on location in studio, and maybe that spans over a few days. If we're then able to receive some of the first shoots early in the week, start using that, and then remembering to use some of them as references for what comes in next, that's something we can use the system to control. Then you can still have the same consistency across the whole campaign, and being able to speed up the process. And I think there's always time sensitivity in this, and if we can give back a day or 2 to our clients in this process, I think at the end of the day, that is going to help them deliver, what they want and being able to tell the story that they ultimately want to do.
Glenn follows back up with a better definition, saying fashion storytelling is a more creative version of editorial fashion. So really just like the breadth of options that we are offering here with editorials, it does include everything, correct? We're not just talking about
exactly. Yeah. No, exactly. I think it's a good point. I think we're looking at many different types of product verticals. We're looking at different types of productions, and again, the even different scope of work where we have some clients that have an in-house team, but they just basically want us to do all the prep work. They want their in-house retouches to just focus on adding the last 20% on top and really really dial in the brand aesthetic, and then we have others that want us to take it, all the way through around one, and others that want to take it all the way to final delivery. That may include 2 or 3 revision rounds. So yes, it is definitely potentially covering everything.
Great.
Again, based on the client's needs.
Of course. And one more question, one final question from Dimitro. He would like to know if we develop raw images or only accept JPEGs.
No, I think there's very few limitations, both to image types and to how to receive comments and instructions and markups and so on. Like ideally, everybody goes into the platform and we have the communication in one place. But of course, we need to receive any type of image formats. We need to we need to be able to receive PDF markups. We need to be able to receive markups coming in, a layer from whatever happens in Capture One, maybe. Like, so we're really taking an extremely agile approach to this, because we understand that the setups and the workflows that are currently in place are very, very different. So yeah, definitely.
I do know that our retouchers use PSDs, Photoshops, as their main file. So definitely layered Photoshop files with markups is something that will correct.
Yeah, exactly. And if we do receive a JPEG, what we actually do in the beginning of the process is to convert that into a PSD and automatically set the right layer structure and so on. So and then we basically deliver back, if they want back a JPEG, if they want back a PSD, a TIFF, whatever, or multiple formats. That's again, that's something that is going to be customized.
All right. We keep getting these great questions, so I got to keep asking them. Will it be possible to have the layered PSDs delivered back?
Yes.
Great.
That was a quick question, a quick answer.
We're making a lot of accommodations to our customers in this new offering.
Yeah, I think we have to, Mike. I think it is way less streamlined, the editorial production, than ecom. And I think even within ecom, there's a lot of nuances, there's a lot of different workflows. But when it comes to editorial, I think it just, the scope is just much wider.
Totally makes sense. Yeah, we've nailed it. I think that's going to be it for our questions today. Thank you, everyone, for your great questions and for being here with us. If anyone listening here wants to talk with Jakob or would like to learn more about editorials, I can give you Jakob's email now. It's Jakob, Jakob, @pixelz.com. You can also reach out directly to your CSM if you're already a Pixelz customer. And for those of you who are joining us, you will receive a link to your inbox right now as soon as we're done here, that you can watch this video on demand. And for your friends who joined or signed up but didn't join, they're also going to be receiving an on-demand video as well. And with that, Jakob, do you have any final thoughts or points you'd like to add?
I think just that we're extremely excited about this. We've been working really hard on this for more than 10 years in the making, and then specifically on the editorial for the last year. It's super exciting to get this feedback from our clients and to be able to continuously develop on this, because for us, we feel like we're in a fantastic place now, but there's a lot more to come. Like we have a lot of things already in the pipeline, and we have a lot of ideas that are continuously flowing in. So there's going to be a lot more coming in the coming weeks and months as well. So just excited about continuing on this journey.
Fantastic. Well, thank you, Jakob.
Thank you, Mike.